and welcome to this video. So I actually forgot to record an intro to this video before I started doing it, so unfortunately you're not going to have a nice before shot, but basically I just needed to reorganize my shelf so I could fit all the new series that I've picked up recently, and just also change the layout out a little bit from some shelves that I didn't really like the look of. So yeah, without further ado, we're gonna get into it. So of course, firstly, I need to take off all the manga from the shelves, which is always a bit of a process, and the worst part of it is honestly finding the space to put it on the floor in my room, so I can still walk around and get to the series I need to get to. But it also obviously lets me clean the shelves and just have a nice clean template to start off with. So I started with the second to top shelf just because the top shelf I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do yet, but with the second one I had a clearer idea. Now unfortunately you'll see the camera slowly slipping upwards, which I didn't realise until much later into organising it, so a lot of my organisation for the shelf isn't going to be shown, but trust me, you're not missing out on a lot because I end up changing this and not really liking what I do. But essentially this was my fantasy shelf, and my biggest issue was fitting all of the larger trim volumes, because obviously if you stack two together it causes an overhang, so I was struggling a lot with that, as well as the colours of the spines. You can see me trying to mess around trying to keep the coloured ones together, but I don't really like how this turns out, so spoiler alert, it does get changed eventually. But then on to the next one. This one is for Noragami and Hanako-kun, and this one I keep the same just because I always like how it looks with all the colourful spines together. And then for this one I ended up having to move the shelf, but this is going to be the 19th century-esque series European ones, which I'm always struggling for space, but I'm basically keeping this layout the same. I like having Black Butler at the back, so then I can still see the shorter series, The Yell and the Fairy, at the front, and there's a lot of volumes of Black Butler. I used to have a Black Butler volume on display as well, but I changed it out to a Vanitas one, and initially I put volume 8 because it has Domi on the cover and she's my favourite character, but I do end up changing this out just because I think the gold conflicted a lot with the other colours on the shelf, but then of course we're putting Vanitas and Moriarty, and that is that shelf complete. And then this shelf isn't changing at all just because I really like the looks of the colours on the shelf, but this is kind of, I guess, dark fantasy series is my explanation for these. And then this shelf I wanted to turn into the Yona of the Dawn, like, Asian series. Initially I put Yona of the Dawn, A Bride's Story, The Apothecary Diaries, and Usatogi Rhetoric on there. However, I do end up changing this later just because it ends up being very full and cluttered. You can see me debating which cover I wanted to put, but again, I decided on that one, and I think I changed it out just because it wasn't really matching the colours and things. But yeah, and then I end up moving Usatogi Rhetoric and The Apothecary Diaries to the other side because it was a bit heavy on the 19th century one, it was on the other side, so I wanted to try and fix that. But as I said, this actually gets changed later, so don't believe me too much with that shelf. And now we are on to the romance one, which needed a lot more space, and this is the one that I'm definitely going to struggle the most with in the future just because I have so many series that are ongoing in this shelf, so I really just need to figure out what I'm doing with them. But I keep the setup largely the same. I moved Lovesick Ellie at the back just to provide a stand, and also because it's a complete series, so I know the amount's not going to be changing anytime soon, and I don't think I'm going to be reading it anytime soon. The other issue is obviously there's a mix of trim sizes, so we have some of the smaller ones, some of the larger ones, and trying to figure out where they can go together. So I put all the larger ones kind of in a stack just because I feel like that saves the most room, and then obviously the remaining ones go on the side, and then I put the ones I couldn't fit on display with a semi-matching cover. I don't know why I put A Condition Called Love on top of I Cannot Reach You. Obviously I just changed it there, but I don't know why I did that. I think I was just trying things out to see if I liked it or if I needed more space. But yeah, so with that is basically the romance shelf complete. It's basically the same as what it looked like before, but with more series packed in there. And then this shelf, as you can see, I was running out of space. You can see my Nendoroid boxes that I had to move to the side, and I'm just like kneeling in the corner. But this kind of became the like miscellaneous shelf. I really struggled with this, and once again, I'm pretty sure what I end up with is completely different to what you'll see at the end of this video. But yeah, I also didn't film the bottom shelf and the top shelf just because they're very awkward angles to film at, so I just thought it'd be easier if I did it off camera. I was also very tired at this point, so I ended up doing them a different day. But yeah, so basically this is all of my miscellaneous series. There's a lot of like LGBTQ+ ones, just general slice of life. We have like idol oriented series, we have a bit of magical girl and supernatural elements. There's just a mix of things and genres. So oh yeah, obviously I changed the shelf length because I was like, oh, I can have more room and then we can fit more things. But yeah, it's just a whole mishmash of series, so just trying to make it look cohesive was what I was aiming to do. I don't know if I achieved that. I definitely like how it looks now more than what ends up in this clip, but you'll see that in a little bit. And then after that, it's just obviously putting the finishing touches and decorations to complete the shelf. Hello, so it has been about a month, I want to say, since I filmed anything for this video. Basically, when I was doing the original organisation, I got kind of tired, and then I did some stuff on my own time, and then like some stuff happened, and then I got sick, so it just kind of like all kind of spiraled. So now we are a month later. The shelves have changed slightly since when I was organising them as part of this video, so I thought I would just do a final overview of what it all looks like, and just talk about the changes and stuff like that. So at the top, as always, I have my Pandora Hearts box set there, just because that's a perfect place for it. And then on the top row, we have Japanese volumes at the back, and I'm very happy I managed to fit them all in the back for now. And then this has kind of just turned into a miscellaneous shelf. There's a general theme, but at the moment, like, it's just kind of what can fit there. So we've got, you know, like Pokemon Adventures at the back, and then Seraph at the end is like the main thing. So I struggled with this a bit, but I'm happy with how it turned out. It's the most I've liked this top shelf in a while, so I mean, I'll take what I can get. And then moving down, we have the fantasy shelf. Now this looks a lot different than when I did it, and I think I've changed this like 3 or 4 times since then. And this is what I've ended up with, and I like it quite a bit. So the biggest issue I was having was the fact that these like coloured spines were conflicting a lot with the whites, and so I tried to push them at the back and have the whites at the forefront, and then I added this little acrylic block to kind of cover the mixing colours there, so it all kind of like ties in a little bit nicer. And then obviously I found a nice matching cover for Witch Hat Atelier to match it, which I think goes very nicely. So that is what that one's looking like, and luckily none of these series release particularly often, and there's lots of space, so hopefully we are good for a bit for this one. Then we have this one, which hasn't really changed at all since like even before the organisation. I just changed where it was. So we have Noragami and Hanako-kun, and I just really like the colourful spines next to each other. I think it's really fun. I've moved this block down here because I thought it matched the colours nicer, and I added a bit more Madoka Magica stuff just because I thought it went well with the colour scheme. So that's that one. And now we have this shelf, which this is going to be the biggest problem shelf in the future. The reason being, this is obviously kind of like a 19th century Euro-esque series, and as you can see, it is very full. And all of these series, bar like The Ellen Fairy, Crimson Shell, there are more volumes or ongoing series. So this is the biggest issue at the moment on what I'm going to do with this, but luckily Black Belt doesn't release too often, neither does Vanitas, and I am on hold for collecting Moriarty the Patriot at the moment, so hopefully we are good for a bit. However, there's a series that I've just gotten into which may cause an issue, so we will see about that. But yeah, that is that shelf for now. This shelf basically looks the exact same. I just added in the new Girl from the Other Side volume, and that's that shelf in its entirety. I really like how it comes together, and all the standees fit so nicely on it, so that is that shelf. That's not going to be changing for a while, probably. Now, this one's changed a bit. When I originally did it, I still had the Apothecary Diaries and Uzutaki Rhetoric on here as well, but I didn't like how cluttered it was, so for now I've made it just Yona of the Dawn and then a bride story at the end. I think eventually I'll probably move the Apothecary Diaries back here just because it's on another shelf and that shelf kind of needs a bit more space, but for now I do like how open it is and there's still lots of room for more Yona volumes and things, so yeah, but it's nice to have a nice like fully Yona shelf for at least a little bit. And then we have the romance section, which once again this also may be a problem in the future, so we will see how it goes. For now I decided to move Maid Sam at the front because I wanted to see the colours rather than having more white spines, so it kind of like flows like that with the colours, I guess. It's just like a mix of pastels and whites, but yeah, so this one, obviously a lot of the series on here are ongoing, there are more volumes, so we will have to see how this develops in the future. It's probably going to end up just being really cluttered and everything, but for now this is what it's like. To be honest, it's not too different from what it was before. I've just moved Lovesick Ellie to the back there to give some more room for other series, but we will see what happens. Honestly, the biggest issue is when it's these larger volumes, because obviously I can't like really double stack them because otherwise you get an overhang like that, which I don't really like, but if needs must. And then we have this shelf, which as you can see is very full. This kind of just turned into like anything I couldn't fit anywhere else shelf, which is why I'm probably going to move the Apothecary Diaries back up. And yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes. At the moment, because obviously it's very full, it does look quite nice, but there is issue with series continuing, which Oshinoko I am still collecting, but I'm on hold for at the moment, so that's good. Phantom Idol I'm also on hold for collecting at the moment. Nozaki-kun I am getting more volumes, but at least they're very small. Uzutaki Rhetoric only has 2 more volumes. I Hear the Sunspot is ongoing, but you know, it's very slow releasing, and everything else I think is finished. Oh, My Dog is a Death Dog God, but like the next volume doesn't come out until next year, so that's a next year problem. As well as Case Files of Jeweler Richard. So we will see how it goes. At the moment, very full, but it does what it needs to do. And lastly, we have the bottom shelf. Please ignore the wire, which again kind of was just like what I couldn't fit anywhere else. So it is a little bit of a mix. I mean, I guess these are all kind of related. They're kind of just like light novel adaptations, and this is a light novel, so I guess that's the connection. Ignore Carnival. But yeah, I mean, again, it's not the pretty shelf, but it is right at the bottom, so I don't have to worry too much about it, you know, sticking out. Although obviously you can see it, and I really like Who Made Me a Princess in 86, so I would prefer to have these like series more visible, but for now, this is what we've got, this is what I have to work with. So yeah. So that is currently the full shelf in its entirety. It's not like perfect, and it's always changing to be honest, but for now, it does what it needs to do. And that will be the end of this video, so I hope it was somewhat enjoyable. I would like to thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye bye!